Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé bears all. Let's watch.
Yara. So we want to keep you honest as we dig into your past. In fact, to make sure you give us straight answers, we're going to hook you up to an actual polygraph.
All right.
So these are not scientifically demonstrated to work. They are often, for whatever reason, considered to work. I will say that one of the drivers behind the myth that they work is the fact that law enforcement will use it. And law enforcement wants us to believe that it works, because if criminals, those being questioned, believe that it works, then it'll rattle the suspect such that they might come clean and say, oh crap, I either have to do this lie detector tester. And it's been thrown out in court many times because all you got to do is get a psychologist who understands, or a researcher on the stand, to testify that science has demonstrated that these things don't work. It's all based on the premise that when you lie, you have a physiological fight or flight, essentially, reaction. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing increases, this kind of thing. Essentially, the idea is that when you lie, you have a fear response because you're worried that you're going to get caught. And although that can happen, it also might not happen. You also can have a fear response when you tell the truth. If you are, someone asks you a question and says, have you ever cheated on someone? And you're about to say yes, you might have a fear response as you're about to say that. Now, what the polygraph administrators will say is, well, we account for all that and we have ways of interpreting those data, but there's a lot of subjectivity. And here's the thing, we have tested it in the lab. We get a polygraph expert, we get someone in there, and we tell the person to either tell the truth or lie. And the polygraph, interpreter is barely, I think the research, it's like they're barely better than just flipping a coin in terms of determining if the person is lying or not lying. Now, this isn't to say that you can't tell if someone's lying or not, or you can't make a good guess about if someone's lying. And I've said this before, all the body language and eye movement people that you'll see on the internet, that's all also been completely debunked. I mean, particularly that kind of stuff. Like if you look up to the left, it means this. No. Like, we have ways of evaluating those claims within empirical science, and none of those claims have turned out. If you cross your legs, it means you're trying to do this and that. No. While I'm on this subject, if you dream about flying, it does not mean X, Y, or Z. Dreaming about flying might mean X, Y, or Z. Plus, it's like, how do we know if it means that? Because you're basically just making up a story. Now, I do dream interpretation, but I'm always asking the client what associations they have. It's a very exploratory. I'm just asking a lot of questions, and the client derives their own meaning just through me guiding them through a series of questions, through a process. And at the end of that, they're like, I kind of feel like my dream means this. And then they tell me, and I'm like, okay, sounds good. I never say, well, you dreamt about water, it means emotion, that kind of stuff. All that stuff is completely been debunked decades ago, all these things. But on the internet, everyone believes it. And so just understand that there's science around all this kind of stuff. Again, it's not just scientists saying things, it's actually measuring it in the lab repeatedly, multiple different researchers all coming at it from different angles. It's not just one scientist, it's thousands of people looking. Anyway, point is that polygraphs don't work. Anyway, actually, let me look up the research particularly. Right, so just looking at a number of studies, there are all sorts of claims stating that they have a 90% validity, but that's the minority point of view. The consensus in the scientific community in my field of psychology is that they do not work. Another point to bring up is that when you ask an innocent person a question of guilt, they will get afraid. You ask an innocent person, did you murder that person? The person under the polygraph understands that, oh my God, this question, everything hinges on my ability to answer this question, and what my body's doing. Oh my God, hopefully my body doesn't freak out when I answer this question truthfully by saying, no, I did not murder this person. You have a spike, and then boom. And like I said earlier, many law enforcement agencies understand that polygraphs don't work, but they use it anyway because they know that it'll rattle people. It's just something that they do to try to rattle people. But you can have, there are ways of taking guesses as to whether or not someone's telling the truth. Like there are some signs that people are lying, right? Like the way they respond and how kind of shifty they are or how much detail they give. For example, you ask someone, well, what are they asking him? I've been responding so long, I forgot have they even asked him a question? But anyway, so let's say you ask someone, we saw that there was this picture on Instagram with this other woman. Did you cheat on Yara with this other woman? And if he said something like, well, no, of course not. I would never cheat. I don't even know that woman. She was just some random person came and took a picture of me. Okay. So there's a lot of shadiness to that response, right? Not only the sort of shiftiness of the body language, but also like the details given. Like, so you're telling me on your Instagram page, a random person came up to you, took a picture, and you posted it on your Insta. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you lie about it? Now, we don't know why they would be lying or why there would be a sign of deception. We don't know if that's because he cheated, but there's a suspiciousness to the response that anyone can detect, right? Whereas if he said, oh, that's actually a friend of a friend, and she's a really good friend of mine. And no, I would never be with her and have never been with her. But I could see how the picture would kind of make it look that way. But I've talked to Yara about it. Yara's married. There's a detail that people can give that seems congruent. Now, could that be a lie? Absolutely. People who are good at lying are very good at lying. So that's just, I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again in the future. I just feel like part of the reason why I started this podcast was because the internet is filled with misinformation on a variety of topics, including psychology and social sciences. And since I am a scientist and I do have access to the research and I have studied these things, I feel like it's my duty to try to dispel the myths for a variety of reasons and to help us get in line with the science. Because most lay people don't go to graduate school, don't have access to this kind of thing. And so they're being bombarded with all the ridiculousness on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So that's one thing. Also, when we look at science and we look at empirical observation, it actually shows us some very important things. Climate change, vaccines working, racism, sexism. There are things that are happening that we can measure by observation that when we understand the reality and the facts, then we can actually try to improve society and maybe even save the planet. And so not only am I trying to promote these ideas in psychology, but I'm trying to promote general scientist-minded thinking, scientific-minded thinking, meaning that you don't just follow Facebook. You don't just listen to your grandma about their opinions about things. You don't listen to politicians, for crying out loud. You listen to the scientists that are actually studying things. Now, are scientists without flaws? No, but you're always looking for the consensus. You're always looking for like, okay, out of 100 scientists in this realm, what's the vibe of the general conclusions that people will drive. So with the polygraph, for example, yeah, you could find several experts that say the polygraph works, and we have 90%. We have studies that show this and that, but the consensus among all those who are in the field of that area of lie detection and deception, they have concluded that the polygraph does not work.
AKA a lie detector machine. Are you willing to do this, Jovi?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's
All
do
right,
it.
okay. So we're going to get you set up. We also have our polygraph expert, John, here to make sure you aren't fibbing. Okay, John, you want to wire him up?
Y'all really trying to make this interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Now, I feel like I've seen this scene before. This is a little bit of a deja vu. Did they show this clip during a tell-all? I feel like they must have. Or did I see a clip of this online once or something? Which I apologize if I've already watched this and reacted to it. But it wasn't Bears All, because I haven't seen this show before. It must have been during a clip, during a tell-all or something.
We want to make sure.
I'm gonna stand or?
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
I feel like I'm getting arrested over here.
Have you ever been hooked up to one of these before?
I have not.
Not? Okay. Are we ready? Okay, let's begin.
Have you ever slept with a stripper?
No.
It's a lie.
So I do remember watching that. They must have shown this during the tell-all in front of Yara or something. Okay, so they ask him, have you slept with a stripper? He says no. And then the polygraph person says, absolutely, it's a lie. Hard eye roll. Now, is he lying? You know, I wouldn't put it past Jovi to lie. Plus, I think he's literally said that he slept with strippers before, or his friends would say that, right?
Jovi!
So hard. What a first question. You couldn't have warmed up to
Oh my gosh, Jovi!
it. Strippers are normal people too.
Right. What's wrong with sleeping with a stripper? They're human beings. What's this idea of just like so the problem with this is because we associate, especially for women, if they do anything that is not virtuous, essentially not Christian or religious virtue, then they're disgusting and they're tainted, they're impure, they're gross, and strippers definitely get put into that category. So let's say every one of Jovi's past partners were strippers. What's the problem? What if every past Jovi partner was a janitor? Like, it doesn't matter. They're as human beings. Plus, I think it's obvious that just because you are an exotic dancer does not mean you've had a lot of sex with a lot of different people. Even if you had, that's also okay. Ugh. And this is funny because I think I had the exact same reaction. It'd be funny if I had the opposite reaction, which I'm sure I didn't. But I need to maybe just not have a reaction to this anymore because I'm pretty sure I've already reacted. And it'd be kind of embarrassing if I just said the same thing watching the scene twice.
Have you slept with more than one stripper?
No, actually.
True.
He was
Give me a little
defiant
credit
about
here,
that.
somebody.
Did you go to Jamaica with a stripper?
Yes. How did anybody find this out? Where did y'all get this information from?
Jovi!
Okay, so according to the lie detector test, which I think there's a way, so because it seems to be working, right? Jovi seems to be going, wow, you caught me I did lie and you caught me on the lie. Well, one, the polygraph guy is asking very specific questions. Have you been to Jamaica with a stripper? How did the polygraph guy know that without being fed data to indicate that that was a high, probability? So the polygraph guy was probably, someone did research on Jovi somehow and gave this guy, these are things that we know to be true. He slept with a stripper. He went to, Jamaica, And so the polygraph guy is making conclusions based on data that he received prior to the examination, is my guess.
Yara's going to see this. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Would it be a bad thing if Yara found out?
Of course.
True.
Wow.
I don't think they showed when they showed clips of this in the tell-all, I don't think they show this whole thing. So this part I'm not familiar with. At least I think I'm not. So, so it's one thing for people to be throwing around words like narcissism and this. I guess I'm used to that. But this is in my field. You're doing something in the social sciences. And you're acting like this thing is a thing. This polygraph thing is a thing. It'd be like if someone had a dowsing rod or was, trying to psychically figure out if someone. But it's worse than that because it comes across as if it's scientific, and which it's not. But anyway, the laughable thing about it is the polygraph guy is like, "Do you think Yara would be upset about this?" And Jovi says, yeah. And then the polygraph guy goes, he's telling the truth. Duh. Like, these questions, obviously you knew he went to Jamaica with a stripper. Obviously you know that Yara would be upset about a variety of things. So you could probably, it'd be funny if none of those things were even hooked up to the computer and it's just the polygraph just knowing things because it's obvious.
Did your ex-girlfriend pee in your bed?
No, actually, I don't know where that story came from. Like, one of my friend's girlfriends peed in my bed one time, but it wasn't my girlfriend.
True. Have you ever had sex with more than one person at a time?
Actually, no, I haven't. Oh, damn, you got me.
So, and that one is a little interesting because the way that Jovi responded seemed genuine to me anyway. And then the polygraph says, guy says, you're lying. And then Jovi's like, wow, you got me. Okay. So how did the polygraph person know? Were there biomarkers indicating lies? And the polygraph just happened to coincide with reality in that moment? There's that possibility. There's also a possibility that, again, with the research on Jovi's past sexual life, that the polygraph person knew there's a high chance that he had been together with more than one person at once and just, went off that information.
Ooh, Jovi. Oh, my God, you're in such trouble. Such trouble.
Do you regret agreeing to take this polygraph?
Yes, absolutely. I wish I would have never taken this.
True.
Okay, thank you, John, very much.
I mean, it's an entertaining bit, of course, and it gives, I guess, the audience an opportunity to learn more about Jovi. But, one, it's based on a premise of essentially slut-shaming for both the women and him. What's wrong with Jovi having had consensual activities with people in the past? Like, it's some kind of disgusting thing, or it's supposed to bother Yara or something. Like, it's now, there's STIs, which is a real thing and a real concern for Jovi's partners, and that, but that's not, I don't think, the majority of what they're talking about here. Anyway, but not only is it slut shaming, but it's also based on this premise that polygraphs work, which I've already been over.
Jovi. Oh, my gosh.
Can I get out of this prison unit over here?
That was brutal. Whew, man, Jovi, it took a lot of courage to do that. I commend you very much.
Thank you. That was tough. That was brutal.
It was tough. It was tough. But thanks so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you. And thank you, John.
I also want to just float the possibility that Jovi knew from the beginning what this whole thing was going to entail. Because there's a chance that Jovi, upon them approaching him, could have just said, we're going to set this all up as a farce and we're going to feed you the question. The polygraph person's going to know. The other possibility is that they came to Jovi and he's just like, no, I don't want to do a lie detector, because he would be under the impression that it works. But even if he didn't believe it worked, it's like, it's exposing, what if the polygraph says, have you, committed any major crimes recently? And say Jovi had, who knows? He'd be like, he wouldn't be interested in participating in that. And then they might have said, okay, well, here are the 6 questions we're going to ask you. And at that point, there's some kind of discussion about what his answer should be. There's a possibility that was happening as well. There's also a possibility that the polygraph guy is just very good at his job. I could imagine that, tipping the scales to make it a little bit useful. All right, well, that is it for that episode. If you didn't know already, we have merch. You can click the link below to get shirts and mugs and all that kind of stuff. Also, I'm on Cameo if you wanted to take part in that. Want me to say happy birthday to someone or happy anniversary or just have a good day. It's kind of fun to do those things. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.